Welcome in, Campo and Joe, as we are just days away from free agency, just days removed from the NFL Combine. And today, really big news pop for your Jacksonville Jaguars. Joe C. from XL Primetime, our head coach, Dave Campo, as he loves talking Jaguar ball with all y'all and with me. I get to kind of sit in and just kind of chop this up a little bit.
You're not giving yourself enough credit.
Yeah, but you drop the knowledge on the people, which we appreciate. All right, now listen. Campo and Joe, we know what the offseason's all about. It's kind of we call it the football math. Free agency plus draft is going to equal something when you get ready for your 2025 version of the Jags. But the biggest piece of news today is that Christian Kirk, at least according to the reports, Adam Schefter, I want to say, was the first one that put it out and basically says the Jaguars plan to release veteran wide receiver Christian Kirk per source. Now, let's just react to that immediately and then play some scenarios after that. What did you think?
Well, first of all, it surprises me a little bit because, I always felt that Kirk was an integral part. The probability, though, the problem is availability is number one.
Yeah, very true.
And unfortunately, he's been hurt. He's a guy that opens up the middle of the field pretty well for over the time he's been here, but only when he's been out there. So to me, you look at it and you say, okay, that's too bad because I think if he's healthy, he is a factor. But the cap saving, along with the real needs at some other positions that cap availability affords them, it's probably a move that is going to turn out to be a pretty good one in the long run.
It was a move they had to make when you go back to the amount of money that Trent Baalke first threw at Christian Kirk. They had to throw money at guys to get them here and basically try and restore some order in Duval. But since then, the cap number, as an example, the cap hit this year is $24 million. The cash that was going to Christian Kirk was $16.5 million. He's already made $64 million, including that break the bank deal that he got back in 2022. But the thing is, Coach, there's no getting away from this part of it. And you said it. It's availability. It's how often are you out there? And unfortunately, Christian Kirk's not the biggest cat, and he suffered two season-ending injuries at the end of 23 and then really kind of early in 2024. Right. So when you're not available, it's going to make that contract looks that much more expensive.
Absolutely. And that's a lot of money.
Yes.
I mean, that affords them, they already had a little bit of cap money to be able to do some things. That really gives them an opportunity to make some splash hires. And that's, I think, what they're going to be looking at. I'm really excited to see what happens in free agency because there's a couple of positions that there are a few guys out there that would help us for sure. I'm not sure they're going to go in that direction necessarily because Shad has come out and said, I'm a little tired of spending money on free agents, especially the way we struggled this last, 20 games or whatever it is with some of the guys that we get brought in. But at the same time, this is a new regime. This is a start from scratch. So it depends on how much confidence Shad has in the guys that he just brought in on making decisions on who the best players are out there.
Yeah, I think, and the way I immediately said it on X is let the Gladstone era begin. Because here's a guy that is, as we have said, under my guess is strict instructions from Shad Khan, let's quit trying to Band-Aid this football team in February. Let's build a football team in April. Let's get a good group of players that we can build youth and kind of just reinvigorate this franchise by doing well in the draft and then having a good set of coaches develop them. I'll never dismiss what coaches can do to develop players.
Yeah, there's no question. And I'll tell you what, I think Shad's at the point right now where longevity is going to be a big issue with him. Doug was here for 3 years.
Yeah.
1.5 of them were awful.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can't see. I think he's going to give Liam Cohen and Gladstone plenty of time to get this going. Now, fans might not be too excited about that because you got a quarterback that may be in the window.
Right. He's in year 5.
So
Entering year
that
5.
will factor in. In other words, if they feel there's a free agent out there that's going to give Trevor Lawrence an opportunity now,
Yeah.
Shad may say, well, I'll spend a little money on a free agent, but I think he wants to build, and I think that's what, there is going to be the major part of what they do going forward.
Because there's some expensive cats right now that are on this roster. I found it interesting yesterday. We were taking a look at some of the players that were under contract, including Christian Kirk. Josh Reynolds is still under contract with his football team, and he's also kind of an expensive guy. They probably will not move on with him. I wouldn't think that they would. But now you are looking at the wide receiver room, who's available, what their plans are going forward. And, heck, you start taking what they have or don't have after Brian Thomas Jr., they're bringing Gabe Davis back for at least another year based on the contract that he had. They've got to find another guy.
Yes.
And is it going to come in the form of free agency? Is it going to come in the form of the draft? Let me just at least throw some names at you. This may or may not mean flip for Jacksonville when we get to next week. But Devontae Adams has been let go.
Right.
Huge price tag for him. Yep. Jacksonville's not touching him.
No.
Okay?
No, he's out of the picture, in my opinion.
Okay, so basically just say you're nuts if they even consider it. Devontae, probably not. Right. Stephon Diggs. Coming off an injury.
Yeah, that's the issue.
So I'm gonna say no to that too.
Yeah,
because his I'm just looking at basically what the price tag was for him was $22 million.
Right.
Keeping in mind the Buffalo Bills walked away from him with a $31 million cap hit just to say goodbye to Stephon.
Right.
He played well down in Houston with CJ, then ends up ripping up his knee. Keenan Allen, anything? A little bit long in tooth.
Yeah, I think he's too old, to be honest with you.
So I'm not going to go crazy for that one. Amari Cooper.
Well, Amari Cooper, what's his cap?
He is around $20 million.
Yeah.
He's an unrestricted free agent. But the one thing that I'll immediately say about him, Coach, and I'd have to go back and look at some of these numbers, Amari Cooper, when Cleveland said goodbye to him, even if you remember what he did in the bank against the Jaguars early this year,
right.
He had a lot of drops.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a really good player.
Yeah.
But an aging player. So
yeah, and there's a lot of talk with him going back to Dallas too.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one thing about him is I think he's got something left.
Yeah.
It's not, but again, $20 million. I don't know in free agency if you're going to get a decent one for less than $20 million.
You might be right.
That's probably where you're going to be around that number.
Mm-hmm. You might be right. I'm going to rattle off a few of these other ones. Chris Godwin, they basically have said in Tampa Town that they can't tag him, but they're not going to let him go. They're not going to let him get out of there.
Correct.
And he's a guy that Liam Cohen would love to have.
Yeah, I'd love to have him too.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah, very productive.
Right.
And one of those guys you like in your locker room.
Yeah. With Higgins gone, he's probably the next best guy, in my opinion, to come in. Now, a little older, I mean, obviously, but
and another
still
guy
got something left.
Yeah, another guy that went through a couple of injuries.
Yeah.
And I when we were looking at Christian Kirk versus Chris Godwin, there were more years and maybe more tread gone on Chris Godwin, but still pretty dang good player.
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks, you might say the same thing about him.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, and he's a guy that was in Dallas for a while.
Yep.
Deontay Johnson, a little bit of a headache guy. At least that's the word.
Yes.
When he left Pittsburgh, went to Carolina, and then Carolina just said, "See ya."
Yep.
So nothing really great there. Tyler Lockett, been around for a while, but a pretty good player.
Tyler Lockett.
Mm-hmm. He's a pretty good player.
I coached against him when he was at Kansas State, and it's been a while now. But at the same time, he's one of those guys that's kind of like Christian Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy that can split the field. He can, catch the ball extremely well. So
right. And at least right now the numbers are it was a 2-year, $30 million deal. 14.8 is the average salary. He's unrestricted next year, so we'll see where he goes. But anyway, it's at least one guy to throw out there. All right, so we at least set the table with some of the guys that may be looked at when it comes to free agency.
Right.
But back to our original conversation about do it in the draft instead of do it in February. There are also some pretty good guys that are going to be coming through the draft board. I found it kind of interesting, Coach. Lance Zierlein is a guy that is with the NFL, NFL.com, NFL Network, and he does a really good job breaking down the draft. He switches up his draft. This is mock draft 2.0, and this is coming out of the combine. He goes Abdul Carter first, the defensive end from Penn State to Tennessee.
Right.
Travis Hunter, the unicorn, going to Cleveland next. Cam Ward to the Giants.
Yep.
Armand Membo, because of that 40 time that he ran, which is, I don't.
Yeah, he's a good player.
But is he the fourth pick
I don't
overall?
know if he's the fourth best guy on the board.
And then after that, he puts Tet McMillan.
I was getting ready to say that.
And so just take a look at it.
Yeah.
And and that's a receiver. If you were to do that,
right.
Would you do that? 5th overall.
Personally, I would not.
I would not either.
Because I'm a fix the front guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, me, I'm looking at Campbell or Graham.
Okay.
But
after Tet McMillan, it's Jalen Walker going to the Vegas Raiders out of Georgia, Will Campbell out of LSU going to the Jets, and Michael Williams out of Georgia, another very good pressure edge guy. Shamar Stewart, another edge guy who flashed at the combine. Anyway, those are the guys that are going after Tet McMillan.
Right.
Now, the other one is if based on releasing Christian Kirk, if Travis Hunter was available at 5, what are you thinking?
Well, first of all, they're two different guys between McMillan and Hunter.
Yeah.
I'd have to really look hard at that, which they are.
Yeah.
I promise you, those guys that are in the top 10,
yeah,
they're looking at all of them hard, no matter who they are. And I would look at that one hard because you're talking about two different guys. You're talking about kind of a possession guy in McMillan.
Okay.
He's not a speedster. He can do all. He's London. He's being
like a Drake London.
To Drake London,
okay,
who I love. I saw, he was at SC when I was there. So that's what you're getting. To me, that's a number 2. That's a Pittman.
Another
Drake
big guy.
London.
Yeah.
That to me, and that's what they were trying to get with Gabe Davis. Okay. I look at Hunter as a scorpion, a guy that can do it all.
That's a good way to put it.
The difference is, though, I think he would be a DB, which we need.
I agree with you.
And then he would be a Deion Sanders kind of a clone, and that's why I would look at it hard.
Yeah, I agree with you because when it's so funny, we always lean on Coach for a little more intel and kind of situational awareness inside a program that we can't even understand because he's been in the building and we've not been in the building. But when we first talked about Travis Hunter going back to when he was wrapping up his college season, you originally projected him as a cornerback. And when I thought about it, I'm like, it makes so much sense because this team defensively needs a guy opposite Tyson Campbell to handle the other big, talented wide receivers in the National Football League. And he is an alpha dog.
Right. He is.
And then you let him walk over to the offense every once in a while and scare some defenses.
Yeah. And really, that's what is – I look at Travis Hunter. I watched enough of Colorado's games because Deion was there, and, of course, I coached Deion. I saw enough athletic ability on that guy that he might be he probably is the number 1 receiver and the number 1 corner. Wow. And when you find those kind of guys, it's hard to turn down a great player. And I think he has a chance at this point of being a great player in the National Football League.
All right.
Size is the only.
Yes.
That's the only thing that holds me back at all. But you look at what's the corner from the
Will Johnson.
No, I'm talking about that's in the league.
Sauce Gardner.
Sauce Gardner.
Yeah. I felt like he had some hold-up issues this year.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll tell you what, he's a pretty good darn football player, you know. And
physically, he started to, like, at the line of scrimmage, which normally a press corner, and you can jump in and educate people on this, but they're the ones who can dictate what happens at the line of scrimmage if they have the size and the strength and the speed to go with it.
Right. And really it's changed a little bit from the standpoint that a lot of these corners, it's all about speed.
Okay.
It's not about getting your hands all over them and all that. It's just getting up in their face and making them work to get off the line of scrimmage. And then it becomes, can you run? And we know that guy can run.
Yes, yes.
He didn't run at the combine. He doesn't have to.
No, no.
You know.
And so that's what we're trying to figure out. Travis Hunter, and I'm just going to punch him up, but real quick, Ted McMillan, 6'4", 219 pounds. Let's see here, 31.5-inch arms, 10-inch hands, okay? And I don't know if he ran the 40. I can't remember if he did or not. But anyway, he's obviously a pretty good player. And then let's compare him to Travis Hunter just as far as the measurables are concerned. Right. And then you're talking about, like you said, a guy that might be as good and viewed as the best at his position on both sides of the ball.
Right.
And so now you're talking about both of them are 21 years of age, and you've got, hang on. No, I'm hitting the wrong one. Measurable-wise, 6'1". So he's giving up 3 inches to Ted McMillan, but he is faster, but he's also about 10 pounds lighter.
Right.
What do you think?
I mean, that doesn't bother me. I think he'll put on strength in the league, some weight, but the speed factor is the difference in my mind. You know, we just found that out.
And up here, too,
yeah, but the guy's a football player.
Yeah.
But we just found that out with Brian Thomas. You know, he was the fourth. Everybody was saying he was the fourth guy in that draft class, fourth receiver.
Right.
Well, guess what? He was the fastest, and
the most size.
And it showed up.
Right.
No question.
Yeah, and maybe the most size. Him and Marvin Harrison Jr. Malik Neighbors a little bit smaller. But I'm just saying that the kind of the composite score for him, size and size and speed.
Yeah, I mean he very well could have been the number one guy that came out of that draft. So we'll see.
Oh yeah, if you were redrafting,
Brian
Thomas Jr. may have gone over Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, well he would have.
Yeah,
if you just go on redraft.
Yeah.
Now Neighbors, because of injury.
Yeah. That
didn't have the same kind of thing, but he's pretty darn good. I think they were 1 and 2 at LSU.
Oh, yeah.
1 and 2, however you want to put them down there.
It's so funny because they have definitely kicked out a lot of really good talent. They call themselves DBU, but you look at that WR room over the years, that wide receiver could easily be attached to LSU. All right, I'm going back and I'm looking at Lance Zierlein's 1.0 because I just showed you his 2.0 mock, and he had Travis Hunter going in that third spot to the New York Football Giants. Abdul Carter second to the Cleveland Browns. Cam Ward first to the Tennessee Titans. In that particular mock from Lance Zierlein, he had Will Johnson going fifth to the Jaguars. I know you haven't necessarily studied all the draft prospects. He's a guy who's coming back from injury up there in Michigan. But what do you think about that guy?
Oh, I think he's good. I mean, I watched.
Leon likes him as well in that fifth spot.
Yeah. To me, it's right now, take Travis Hunter out of it because I think he's going before us. I really do. Okay, he's going.
You do? Okay.
Yep, I think he is. But I don't. That's not a guarantee. Depends on how they like Shador Sanders. Because if Shador Sanders is in the first, we might get lucky there. But to me, it's Campbell or Graham or Johnson.
Okay.
Because those are the three positions in my mind that we need to be better at going forward. And the fourth one is the one that you can get a little later, and that's safety.
I love the look of some of these guys, and they need to make sure they address that safety position. And Imanwari is probably not going to be anywhere near if they were to.
I don't know. He's back in that first round, right?
But what I'm going to say is I don't think he'd be anywhere near where they're selecting in the second round.
I don't know.
Okay, I'm just going to give you a couple numbers here. Heman Worry from South Carolina
Right.
is one of the guys that, and I threw some numbers at the fellas yesterday on XL Primetime, and he definitely has a lot of the measurables that you are looking for. If you take a look at it, and this is from the safety position, 417 coverage snaps, 0 touchdowns allowed, 4 interceptions, 3 pass breakups. Passer rating allowed was 37.1, and the coverage grade for him was 88. That's doing work, Coach.
Yeah.
That's pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
And by the way, they also had a lot of guys pressuring the passer.
Right.
That front for South Carolina was pretty damn good. That will make a cornerback look a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let me give you a couple of other things as far as this wide receiver room is concerned, with the news that Christian Kirk is expected to be released by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I got to give our lads one of the places that you can go for a real quick depth chart. They are on it all the time, and they already have taken Christian Kirk off the board, off of their website, which is just classic. So when you look at it right now, Brian Thomas Jr. on one side, Gabe Davis on the other side, Parker Washington in the slot. They still have Devin Duvernay, who easily could step in that slot role, is pretty dang fast, so he may be looked at more than one position. But they have right now, behind those starters, Tim Jones, Josh Reynolds, Devin Duvernay. I'm just going to announce to you right now, Coach, that is not enough.
No. And what's the little guy that's on the practice squad? Been on the practice squad?
Is it the kid who came over from L.A.? One of the from the Rams?
Yeah, I can't think of his name right now. Apologize.
Yeah, but it was like one of the guys
we
that
liked him and
training camp Trammell.
Yeah, Trammell.
Yeah, Austin Trammell, and he's back. And there's another guy, David White, who also is there. But those are the guys that have a chance maybe to stick and stay on this roster.
Yeah.
So my message, though, more than anything else, is that's not enough.
Yeah.
And so they need to be thinking in the first 4 rounds to have a wide receiver that can come in and compete, or they're looking at spending money in free agency. And based on what our discussion was earlier, I don't think there's a good buy out there, is there?
There's not they're going to be taking a veteran that, probably they got to spend some money on if they do it that way.
Mm-hmm. Parker Washington, I feel like he's made some plays. He just has not made enough of them consistently to make you feel pretty good about that position.
Yeah, I think he, he's made some really good catches. The touchdown catch he made in the one game, it was a great play.
Mm-hmm.
But, I haven't seen enough of them to say, hey, but that's what they're looking at. When they, listen, the receiver coach coming in here, Edgar Bennett, might look at it and say, hey, this is exactly what we want.
Right.
That's what we don't know. We don't know, how they're going to view all these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the draft decisions are based on what you do in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do it in free agency, then it becomes a draft issue. So, it's hard to tell where they will go.
Right.
Or who they'll go with at this time until that free agency situation is handled.
All right, so as we wrap this up, let's just use the Trevor Lawrence factor of how much Liam Cohen is leaning on him, how much James Gladstone is leaning on him, because both have been asked the question, will you involve Trevor in some of these personnel thoughts? Naturally, a good question, because fans want to know how much can the quarterback be involved in maybe influencing those two guys, the brain trust of Cohen and Gladstone, to maybe make a decision. Well, the first chess piece has been played. James Gladstone has made a decision not to keep one of Trevor's good buddies, Christian Kirk.
Hey, that answers the question.
Yeah.
It's a moot point.
I'm 100% okay with that.
Yep. Hey, listen, they're going to do what they feel is necessary to put the guys around Trevor and to fix Trevor.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm still a big proponent of fixing Trevor with the running game, get the offensive line fixed.
So
and by the way, you've seen what, and again, I don't know how good these guys are, but you saw what Ben Johnson did up at Detroit, right?
Yeah.
He brought in Thuney, or whatever, however they say it, from Kansas City.
Yeah, Joe Thuney in Chicago.
And they're going to probably bring in a center in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
they're going to fix the offensive line.
Right.
And we need to fix the offensive line too, in my opinion, inside.
Yeah, they made a decision. Joe Thuney, who was an all-pro at the guard position for Kansas City, out of desperation, they kicked him out to the tackle position. We all know what happened in that game against Philadelphia. Pat Mahomes got stormed. Stormtroopers just attacked him, and with success, just a four-player rush. And Joe Thuney playing tackle ain't the same cat as the guy playing interiorly. Right. So your message there is Ben Johnson is going to go and make sure that they're going to give some protection to Caleb.
Take care of that interior. And and again, that's my feeling is what we need to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's it.
All right, so here's the other one. Let me see if I can. Thuney, they only had to give up. Let me see if I got it right here as I squint. They didn't have to give up a lot to get him.
Yeah.
And so he's a guy, Kansas City made a decision to sign Trey Smith.
Right.
And they gave him a bunch of money.
Right.
And then they had to basically part ways with the other side of that interior offensive line.
Right.
Yeah. And so Jacksonville, we didn't mention any wide receivers that jump off the page. Will there be any interior offensive linemen that will jump off the page for you?
Freeze will jump off the page, but it's going to cost you some money.
Right. Will Freeze we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's the one that sticks out to me. Then the other guys are, Stanley from Baltimore is a pretty good player.
Mm-hmm. He would be viewed as a tackle, which would cause a little bit of concern.
Right.
If they were to go out and sign a guy like that, that means they're not believing in Walker or Anton, one of the two.
But you do have some guys, Jenkins.
Tevin Jenkins, good player.
From Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Becton.
Mm-hmm. Mekhi Becton.
If they let Jenkins go, they brought in a guy to replace him.
Yeah.
Becton's out there. Zeitler's out there from Detroit.
Here's another one, Alex Kappa, and the Raiders are going to sign him. They're not waiting on the market to open up to add a guard, and they're grabbing the option early on him. And so that's also another one that came out from Ian Rappaport.
Right.
And so he's a guy that has already agreed to terms, and so he's off the board.
Right. Yeah. So, again, it's just, when they look at it, and I mentioned this to you before we started the show, I'm now starting to look at the free agents because I think the free agents right now are more important to make sure if you're going to do it, get the right one.
Right.
Because that affects the draft, in my opinion.
Very, very true.
I was a little hesitant on what I was going to do in free agency.
Yeah.
Because of without Christian Kirk going.
Mm-hmm.
Because now with Christian Kirk going, you got money.
Yeah.
Now you can look and see what's the best opportunity to protect Trevor. Is it another receiver? Is it an offensive interior guy? Is it a center?
Mm-hmm.
Is it Dahlman? There's a lot of ways they could go here.
Yeah, they just knocked $25 million off. They do have some dead cap money that they're going to have to absorb, which basically clears something in the neighborhood of 14, something like that. Or excuse me, it will be dead money around 14. It will clear $10.5 million according to Over the Cap.
Right.
So we'll see where it goes. All right, Coach, good stuff as always.
Yep.
Dave Campo, our head coach, Joe C. from XL Primetime. We will keep it going all off season as we find out how the how the big build from James Gladstone and Company is going to unfold here in 2025.